All right, I'm thrilled to be here today to bring you an exclusive interview with one of two most talented filmmakers in the industry, Lance Kramer, who's the producer. His latest documentary, The First Step, directed by Lance's brother, Brandon Kramer, has been making waves since its premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival, offering an intimate look at the life and work of media personality and changemaker Van Jones as he attempts to pass a landmark criminal justice bill on prison reform, with a cast of interviewees that include everyone from Jared Kushner to Kim Kardashian. This film offers a thought-provoking and insightful exploration of the complex issues at the heart of our criminal justice system. And now we have the privilege of having with us Lance to talk about the making of his groundbreaking documentary, from their creative process to their experiences working with Van Jones and the incredible cast of interviewees. We'll be diving deep into all aspects of The First Step in this exclusive interview. So without further ado, let's welcome Lance Kramer to the show. And thank you so much for coming on to this show. God
Hey,
bless.
thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor. Appreciate being here.
So, my first question is, what inspired you to make a film about Van Jones and his efforts to pass criminal justice reform bill?
Look, we started working on this film in 2016, and as I think most of us know at this point, it really felt like the country was tearing apart at its seams at that time. My brother and I were deeply concerned about what that meant for everyone in the country, but particularly people who are impacted by the injustices of the criminal justice system, and what it could look like to have even the small gains that have been made in the prior administration unraveled and rolled back, particularly for people who are already suffering. And we knew Van Jones from having worked on two prior projects together. Van was the executive producer on our first film, City of Trees, and we had also made a web series with Van called The Messy Truth, which also came out right before the 2016 election. And we were talking a lot with Van in the time right before and right after the election about what kind of role and what kind of leader in that moment, where many of his peers on the left were running the other direction, and he felt called to try and engage with the new administration to try and find some way forward on this issue of criminal justice, and also the response to the addiction crisis, which were two areas where he thought of all the different issues that he was going to fight with the new administration over. Criminal justice and addiction were two where there might be some area or room for common ground. And when he committed himself to trying to work or engage with the new administration one way or another to find a way forward, we thought that that was a really important story to tell, no matter what happened, and that lessons for all of us could be learned. And that kind of set off this journey that ultimately resulted in the film, The First Step.
Sure. How did you go about selecting the diverse group of interviewees featured and filmed, and what was the process like in getting them to participate? Because that must have been like a challenge of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could take credit for selecting who was in the film. In a sense, it's really that's just who was a part of the story. So our original kind of entry point for the story was Van. And so we had the relationship with Van, and we were really interested in trying to tell a story from his point, navigated or embarked on this quest to try and build bridges across these divides and get something accomplished. And through venturing on that journey, he wound up encountering Jared Kushner, Karen Bass, Kim Kardashian, Hakeem Jeffries, ultimately Donald Trump himself. And that was all things, those were all people that emerged naturally through his experience. And then the real challenge was just trying to keep up, in a sense, with all these things that were happening in rapid fire succession, and then also have access so that we could actually be there with a camera. And so then, for every minute of the film that we filmed, was hours and hours and hours and days and weeks of relationship building to try and make sure that we could be in those spaces, from rural Appalachia in West Virginia to South Central Los Angeles to ultimately the Oval Office in the Trump White House. A lot of conversations with people trying to just build trust and help people understand what we were trying to do. And there were no gotcha moments in the film. So we were very transparent about our intentions, and thankfully people welcomed us in.
Yeah. How did you balance the need to present a fair and accurate portrayal of Van Jones and his work with the desire to create a compelling narrative for the audience?
Yeah, I love that question. It starts with trust, and we thankfully, myself, Brandon, Van, and Jana, his creative partner and ex-wife, all believed in the purpose of this film. And we all knew that in order for it to be successful, it had to be honest. And, that was really important to us, that the film had integrity and could be trusted by audiences and not feel like it was some sort of controlled puff piece or anything like that. But it was really just our attempt to tell an honest story as best as we could, with all its nuance and complexity. And Van believed in that too. And so he always was he was always the strongest advocate for the independence and the integrity of the film. And when things got hard in his life, particularly Brandon and him would have lots of conversations about what was going on, and always he would invite us into those struggles rather than push the camera or our team away. And I hope that comes through in the film, that it's a complicated story, and I think that there's high points and there's plenty of low points too, and I think that's just what this work looks like. And
me viewing the film, I caught that a lot, and I remember the time of the whole bill happening, and I could see the struggles that Van Jones. You could see it in his face, and me being a producer and all, and also having great directors, being my teacher, I could see that he wasn't faking it. This was real. Your brother captured it, and that was absolutely mind-blowing to see that, because it showed. What advice do you give to the future documentary filmmakers who want to tackle important social and political issues through their work?
I would say that one of the most important things, and it maybe sounds cliched, but it's to understand, really listen to your voice, and to nurture your voice and your own unique way of seeing the world. Because no two films will ever be the same.
Right.
And anyone's, oh, well, there was already a film that was made about criminal justice, or, well, there should be infinite number of films that could be made about anything, because every person sees the world differently. And so I always just feel like, whether it's nonfiction, fiction, whatever whatever aspect of the medium it is that you're working in, to nurture your individual, unique point of view and perspective and voice, and then look around you to figure out who in your world is close to you, who could be an entry point to telling a meaningful story. That's always been the case for us, that all of our films have emerged through relationships that already existed in our lives. It wasn't like we went out to go find someone and tried to pitch to them, hey, look at me, can I make a film with you? It was always, both of our films, our first film literally emerged from us making a movie about our neighbor. So, and from that became a beautiful film that was City of Trees. So I think that the combination of just being able to know who you are, know what you care about, know how you uniquely express yourself, and then who in your orbit is there to help bring that to fruition, I think is the best starting point. And it makes it less daunting to think about it that way because you've already got all those things.
True, true. What do you hope viewers take away from the film, and what kind of impact do you think it can have in terms of advancing the cause of criminal justice reform?
Well, I hope that for one, the film can help broaden the conversation around criminal justice reform and that we can all hopefully realize and recognize that this is an American issue. It's not a conservative issue. It's not a democratic issue. It's just an American issue because the system is so big and broken that, and frankly, it took both parties to make it as messed up as it is. So it's going to take both parties and all people to find something, to create something better. So I hope that some of the lanes and silos that the conversation can get, stuck in, broaden, as even the film helps just a small bit with broadening it. For me, that will be that will feel gratifying. And just more broadly as well, I just hope that the film can offer something hopeful and healing when it comes to understanding how do we move forward through all these divisions in the country. And I hope that there's enough examples in the film of people who have the courage and conviction to break through some of those barriers and divisions to fight for people and issues that they care about. And I think that kind of model could be applied to, frankly, any sort of issue that we're dealing with as a country on a national or very local or even familial level. So for me, those are really the things that, if someone took any of that from the film, I'd feel very, very happy and and just hopefully just have a meaningful, if they just walk away with a dose of hope that things could get better, I'll feel good.
Yeah, in the film, Van Jones, he faced, my God, a lot of significant criticism from both the left and the right for his efforts to pass the criminal justice reform bill. How did you balance the need to represent the diverse viewpoints with the desire to maintain a cohesive narrative throughout the film?
It was very, very hard to do that. Let me be clear. That
Yeah.
was extremely hard. And I don't want to take too much credit for that. We built an incredible team. There's so many talented and talented filmmakers, a diversity of talents and perspectives that came together to make the film. We'd have robust conversation and arguments and deliberations over literally years to figure out how to best tell the story from an ethical basis, representation, structural. Just we went around the horn so many times to try and find ultimately just the right form for the film. The version of the film that is the final cut is version 34.
Right.
Which meant that we went through a 2-year edit process where about every 3 or 4 weeks we would have a new cut and then rigorously workshop it. So it took that kind of it just took that type of tenacity, I guess you could say, to get to a point that it feels that way, and a lot of talented people just putting their heart and soul into it.
Yeah, I noticed that in the film he was being bashed a lot, Van Jones, on Twitter and stuff. And I always tell people this little story. I did a little test on Twitter, and I wrote, this is what I wrote. I said, I love chocolate and peanut butter. That's what I said.
Uh-huh.
Somebody answered me and goes, you like peanuts? You must be a communist because you must love Jimmy Carter and you're a Democrat and all this stuff. And I tell people this story because you could say anything, an opinion, you're going to have somebody else way out there, just come out with this ridiculous answer or whatever they feel, whether they praise. So when I saw Van Jones, in the film, he's being criticized. It's very hard to get everyone on the same page. I fight for years since I graduated from college because I'm into climate change, sustainability, and all that. And I dragged it into the film industry, years ago. So you get these people that are against you left and right all the time, and I don't see it as a left or right. I don't, that's not the way I go. I go with the way I feel, what I believe in. And I'm hoping that, people see it through research and scientific discovery. That's the way I go. And, unfortunately, there are people that are closed minded, and that's what he went through and he's going through it. It's very hard to get unity. And that is the key to solving all our solutions. Honestly, if we just had unity,
And I would say that something that's really important for us in the film is for one, we actually wanted to. It was important for us to represent fans, critics, and also to represent them well. And
right.
so, being able to have Van's point of view and also the point of view of his critics and people who disagreed with him, that was very important to us in just the representation of the film. And then also, what we wanted to show was that not just those disparate points of view, but also Van meeting people face to face, eyeball to eyeball, having the conversation in person, not just on Twitter, and what can emerge as far as breakthroughs are concerned when, look, not everyone's going to agree with you all the time, but to be able to actually engage eyeball to eyeball and build relationships or even just have a conversation is radically different than what happens online most of the time. So I hope that that's also just something that comes through in the film, is just the virtue of being able to just confront someone and have the conversation.
Well, God bless Van Jones.
Yeah.
God bless you and your brother. You guys did a terrific job. A
Thank you.
nationwide film that's being released on VOD, video on demand, on major platforms in the U.S. on April 4th. Be sure to watch it. God bless you and thank you for being on the show. And I hope everything, your brother's okay and everything's okay. And,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me. Thanks so much for all you do. Thanks.